Bitcoin is currently in this 1 hour formation which is about to break out. Yesterday we saw a huge decline because of the CPI data coming into the market. And on some other time frames, I have some very interesting charts to discuss with you in this video. There's also a lot of interesting news about the Bitcoin and the Ethereum ETFs coming in, and there's a lot of interesting news, and as I said, the CPI numbers came out yesterday. We also have some very interesting other news which I will discuss with you in this video. Later in the video I will also have a look at the two altcoins, CHAINLINK and the Binance coin. So you want to watch this video all the way to the end to don't miss anything. I would highly appreciate it if you like this video because it will help my channel a lot. In the description under this video you can find the link to my free Telegram group and also to my Twitter channel. Please follow me there. And with that being said, let's now dive right into the charts. Yesterday Bitcoin dumped hard because of the CPI numbers came out, and we saw a huge dump, and we saw that Bitcoin came back to this previous resistance to test it as support. And in my previous videos and also on my Telegram channel I discussed this breakout for Bitcoin and that we could potentially see a retest of the resistance to test it as support, and we now touched it multiple times. So this support is now holding strong, and now we can see more topside continuation as I believe. So for now we're also a little bit in a downtrend because Bitcoin is creating lower highs, but also we can see a little bit of an uptrend on the lower side. So this also could mean that we're going to see a huge breakout in the coming day, and of course we want to see a higher high for Bitcoin and also a higher low, and that would indicate that Bitcoin is coming from a downtrend into a bit of an uptrend. So this could be the start of the next impulse for Bitcoin to the top side. And as I said yesterday, the CPI numbers came out and the US inflation rises to 3%, and it was a little bit higher than expected. So this was a little bit of a bearish note to the market. And as you can see here, the forecast was 2.9% and the actual consumer price index came out as 3%. So this was having a little bit of a bearish effect on the markets. But as we can see, the market also bounced back up. And also in the past we can see a lot of times that the CPI numbers came out, we saw a huge dump, but afterwards we saw a huge pump. And this is also causing a lot of volatility during these events. So during these events I am not going to enter the market or going to trade, but you want to just enter the market on the levels you are already set. So at this retest of this previous resistance as support, you could have entered the market here and you could have placed your orders, and from that point you could have a very interesting trade to make. And on the 1 hour time frame we can see that Bitcoin is in this huge formation, and we can see this falling channel formation is unfolding. And also yesterday in my video I was telling you about this formation. On the top side we can see a lot of touch points as resistance, and also on the lower side we can see a lot of touch points as support. Yesterday we saw this previous bearish note on the market because the CPI numbers came out, but we also saw this support was holding strong, and after that we saw a beautiful spike to the top side. So from this support you could have entered the market in the long, and you could have made an interesting gain of almost 3.5%, and especially when you're leverage trading, this is a very interesting trade to make. And we can also see on the high side now a big rejection from this resistance area. So currently we are at the middle of this falling channel formation, and the falling channel formation is a typical bullish bias pattern because after a big bounce to the top side we are now seeing a huge consolidation happening, and we could potentially see a break to the top side. And if Bitcoin is going to break this resistance area, I'm going to wait for confirmation of the break. Then I'm going to wait for a retest of the resistance to turn it into support. From this point I'm going to enter the market, and then I'm going to aim for higher targets. And the top side of this formation will be confluent with the breakout target, and that will bring Bitcoin all the way back above the $100,000. So this for the scenario could happen today, but of course there's also a bearish scenario possible that we're finally going to break below this huge support on the lower side, that we're going to confirm the breakout to the downside, and we can possibly retest this previous support as resistance, and then we have to aim for lower targets. And if that happens, I will talk about it in my next video, and I will talk about my price targets for Bitcoin if we are seeing a breakdown. And yesterday the Bitcoin ETFs had a little bit of a rough day because we saw a lot of outflows, and also BlackRock was selling, but we can see that Fidelity is selling and like crazy, just like the ARK Invest Bitcoin ETF. So in total we saw an outflow of $251 million, and currently we are still above the $40 billion. So still this is a very insane milestone for Bitcoin, of course, but we want to see that next spike to the top side in the total cumulative inflows. So let's see if the rest of the week can be a little bit more bullish, because we are now seeing 3 negative days for the Bitcoin ETFs, and we want to see those last 2 days of the trading week acting as bullish. And also if we have a look at the Ethereum ETF flow, that we can see that yesterday was a little bit of a bearish day. Only the Fidelity and the Grayscale ETF were selling. So in total we saw a $40.9 million of total outflow out of the Ethereum ETF. And also here, let's see if the rest of the week can be a little bit more bullish for the Ethereum ETF. And zooming out to the 4-hour time frame, we can see this formation is unfolding for Bitcoin. We can see that Bitcoin is getting squeezed into its apex, and eventually the top side of this resistance and the lower side of this support is going to meet in a huge apex. And Bitcoin always tends to break out before the apex is getting reached. And currently we are bouncing from this support on the lower side. So let's see if Bitcoin can come back to this resistance area on the top side and maybe force a break. And if we're going to see a break to the top side, the formation will have a breakout target of $108,000. And of course that is confluent with the previous all-time high. And if we're going to see a break to the downside, a retest of the support to test it as resistance, we have to aim for lower targets, and then the lower side of this formation will be confluent with the breakdown target, and that is around the $90,000. So these are the two scenarios for Bitcoin in the coming days and weeks. And of course, I think we will see a huge break to the top side because Bitcoin is actually still in an uptrend. So a bullish uptrend continuation is more likely to happen. And not only on the 4-hour time frame, but also on the daily time frame, we can see this huge price squeeze is unfolding for Bitcoin. And we are currently close to a huge apex. So I think we will see a huge breakout in the coming days. And we are currently bouncing at this lower side support. So I want to see a continuation of the bullish uptrend, because if you can see here on the daily time frame, Bitcoin is still in a bullish uptrend. And let's see if Bitcoin can create a higher high and also a higher low, because currently we are creating a higher low, which is still very bullish, and also on the low, top side we are creating higher highs. So the trend is still up, and as I'm always saying, the trend is your friend until it ends. So let's see if the trend can continue the top side, and if we're going to see a break to the top side. But if Bitcoin breaks this huge daily formation to the downside, we could aim for lower targets, and that will bring Bitcoin all the way back to the $86,000. So at the $86,000, if we are going to reach this level, I'm going to enter the market heavily for Bitcoin because I think eventually Bitcoin will see prices around the $200,000 this bull market. So if you can buy Bitcoin below the $90,000, that means a more than a 100% increase for Bitcoin if you want to trade it all the way to the $200,000. And yesterday we had also very interesting news, and that was the Fed Chair Powell is saying that the Fed won't block banks from serving crypto customers. And this is very bullish, of course, because banks were very anti-crypto in the beginning of 2020, and now they are turning into Bitcoin and they are embracing crypto. So this is very bullish, and especially when the Fed Chair Jerome Powell is saying this, that means that the floodgates of money can open and that we're going to see a lot of interesting investments into Bitcoin. So this is very bullish news for the market, and I think a lot of big investors will eventually go into crypto. And looking at another daily time frame for Bitcoin, we can see that this horizontal channel is unfolding. We can see the resistance on the top side, and on the lower side we can see a lot of support coming into the market. Currently we are at a little bit of a lower side of this channel, but let's see if Bitcoin can create more bullish strength and that we're eventually coming to this top side resistance, and eventually we want to see a break to the top side, that Bitcoin is going to create a new all-time high, maybe see a retest of this resistance to test it as support, and from here you can enter the market in the long, and then we can aim for the next bull run for Bitcoin, and this could also ignite the next phase of the bull market. But of course we could also see that Bitcoin falls back to this huge support just like we saw last week. And if Bitcoin comes back to this green box of accumulation, I'm going to buy more Bitcoin. But be careful, because this green box has been touched a lot of times, and the more times we touch a certain level, the weaker it gets. So for instance, if Bitcoin comes back to this level, we could either see a bounce just like we saw here, or we could see a break down of this support area, that we're going to see a retest of the support to test it as resistance, and then we have to aim for lower targets. But for now, we are still inside of this channel, and Bitcoin is still in an uptrend. So I believe that Bitcoin will finally come back to this resistance and sees a bullish break to the top side. And zooming all the way out to the weekly time frame, we can see that Bitcoin is in this huge bull flag formation. And in last year, we saw also a huge bull flag formation unfolding. Bitcoin came all the way back from the bear market lows. Then we saw a huge weekly consolidation for a lot of weeks. And finally we broke out bullish. We retested the resistance as support. And from there we saw the next exponential move happening. So Bitcoin is now still in this bull flag formation, just like we saw here in the past. and now we also see a huge consolidation. So I think we will see just a continuation of the bullish uptrend, because a bull flag formation is a typical bullish bias pattern. But we can also see a lot of consolidation happening, just like we saw in the past. So yeah, this formation is going to break out either way, and we could either see a break to the top side or a breakdown to the downside. But I think the bull market of Bitcoin is far from over. And if this bull flag formation is going to break bullish, I think Bitcoin will see prices above the $150,000 very soon after. So let me know in the comments, are you still bullish on Bitcoin, and do you think this bull flag formation will break out to the top side? And some other news came in yesterday, and it was that the US state Texas proposed a second strategic Bitcoin reserve bill with no buying limit. And this is of course very bullish, because it means that the state of Texas can buy Bitcoin with no buying limit. So they can print money and they can buy Bitcoin with that money. And that's exactly what we want to see if we're pro-Bitcoin, of course, because a lot of states are going to invest in Bitcoin, and the US state of Texas is just the first to propose a second bill for their strategic reserve. And also we had the National Bank of Canada buying $2 million worth of Bitcoin, and that means that the banks are in FOMO and they want to enter the market for Bitcoin and also for crypto. So a lot of banks around the world will buy Bitcoin in the coming months, I believe. So that is why I think that Bitcoin has still a lot of purchasing power, and that we're going to see exponential moves in the coming months. And the first altcoin I want to have a look at is the Binance coin, so BNB. We can see that BNB fell below this huge interesting support, and this huge green box of accumulation was a very interesting level to buy more BNB. Some weeks ago we saw a huge decline to the downside, and it means that Bitcoin was falling to the downside and BNB was also crashing. But now we can see we created a huge fake out, we retested previous resistance as support, and now we come all the way back to this huge resistance on the top side. So if BNB, for instance, can break this resistance to the top side, we are going to see a huge gain for BNB. But of course, this resistance is also very strong, as we can see here. And we can also see a rejection coming into the market from here. So selling your profits a little bit at this price is very interesting to see. And when you bought at this green box of accumulation, you are now in 18% profit. So this could also be a very interesting place to take some profits. So for now, we want to see that BNB comes back to this resistance and going to see a break to the top side. But of course, we are now seeing a rejection from this level. So we could also mean that BNB has to aim for lower prices. So it is looking very bullish for BNB. And let's see if BNB can break to the new all-time high in the coming weeks. And also let me know in the comments, are you still holding BNB in your portfolio? And what is your price target for BNB in this bull market? And the next altcoin I want to have a look at is CHAINLINK. We can see CHAINLINK came from these bear market lows, and now we are seeing a huge spike to the top side in the last week. And also we can see this huge bull flag formation is unfolding, because this bull flag formation is a typical bullish bias pattern, and after such a huge run up, we are now just seeing consolidation to the downside. So eventually I think that CHAINLINK will see a break to the top side, because we are still in this huge uptrend. And this bull flag formation, as I said, is a typical bullish bias pattern. So I think we will see a break of the resistance, a retest from the as support, then we can aim for higher targets, and then the top side of the formation will be confluent with the breakout target, and that will bring CHAINLINK all the way back to the $30. But of course we are now at the lower side of this support, so we have to hold this support strong, and then we can maybe see some continuation to the top side. So this could be the next big move for CHAINLINK that could happen in the coming days and weeks. And if we have a look at the weekly time frame for CHAINLINK, we can see that these horizontal levels were getting respected very carefully, and also we can see that we broke down of this support area. So we have to paint this support area in red now, and this is looking a little bit more bearish than bullish. But as we can see in the past, a lot of resistance and support comes in at this horizontal level, and currently we are just breaking below this level. So this is a little bit more bearish. So let's see if CHAINLINK can also invalidate this bearish break, and that we're coming to next highs. So this means that this bull flag formation should break to the top side, and that could mean that CHAINLINK could all the way come back to the $30. And let me know in the comments, do you still hold CHAINLINK in your portfolio, and are you still bullish on CHAINLINK? So again, please like the video if you think it was useful. In the description under this video, you can follow me on my free Telegram group where I show more Bitcoin in-depth analysis. You can also follow me on Twitter where I post more altcoin analysis. And with that being said, I hope you find this video useful, and I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.